So last week we covered a video from Officer Tatum, who was one of the first, because he tends to be one of the first conservative demagogues to jump on an idea and make a video about it and get it out there. Now, one of the things that I find the most interesting and the most disheartening about the conservatives in this country is the way that they manage to unite so fully. It does not matter what the thing is that they're uniting around. If one conservative demagogue makes a video and starts getting things out into the public eye, all of the others follow suit. It can be the most ridiculous thing. It can have no backing to it whatsoever, and they will all crowd around it and push it like it is truth. And I think a lot of that might stem from the fact that a lot of conservatives are very religious, and that's sort of what religion does. You have one person say something, interpret something some way, everyone else kind of gets, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. Let's get behind that and let's push that and let's make sure everybody knows about it because everybody has to know the truth of God. So, today, just a few days after our video went live about Officer Tatum talking about the CDC number adjustments, we have Paul and Morgan uploading yet another video about COVID and doing something very, very similar to Officer Tatum. Who would have guessed? Rallying together. However, one of the things that I am quite enjoying about this is looking at their like to dislike ratio here. 440 likes to 1,000 dislikes. Now this has been out for 3 days, this video. It only has 8,000 views, and they have this ratio here. Paul and Morgan's channel is dying, which is really great. I am so happy to hear that. But it's so painfully obvious that their channel is dying. And it's really kind of funny. So, also down here, they mention in the video, but not in the video, but in the description where nobody's going to see it. After rewatching our video, we realize, and perhaps should have addressed it more clearly, that some people who passed away with additional illnesses would not have had those conditions if it had not been for COVID. That being said, what are your thoughts? So, they most likely saw the backlash to this video, which is pretty extreme, and felt like they had to issue some kind of statement, but they didn't want to admit it in a video. So I would be very surprised if they made a video talking about why they're wrong in this respect, but let's see exactly what they have to say.
And I don't think it will end until election, and then when election happens, our country will probably go up in flames.
No, I rebuke
True.
that in Jesus' name. Lord Jesus, pour out grace and mercy.
You see, here's the thing about this election. The scariest thing about this election is there was a poll that I've seen that I think it's about 35%, somewhere around there, of people who were polled said that they still expected to have like official results of the presidential election on election night, which is never going to happen. See, here's the problem, is that this is such a contentious race, and we have people so up in arms on both sides, and then we're going to have something on election night that probably is going to look like a Trump landslide, because it's going to be mostly conservatives voting in person, because mostly conservatives are the people who don't give a shit about COVID and are not afraid of it and are going to go out and vote in person. So what we have is, on election night, it's going to be the exit polls and that sort of thing are going to show that Trump got tons of the vote. And then over the next week, as they're actually tabulating the mail-in ballots, it's going to shift, and most likely Joe Biden is going to edge him out. Not by much, but he's probably going to become the president, which is good. But the problem is that when you have Trump already priming his constituents for there being fraud in the mail-in ballots, which has not been substantiated in any way, when you already have him priming them with that, then when they see him winning on election night, and he's probably going to claim that he wins on election night, if that's what the polls show. And then he's going to double down on that over time. And then as it shifts, all of his followers who think that he is the arbiter of truth are going to think that this is evidence of that. that very same corruption and mishandling of votes that Trump has been saying is going to happen with the mail-in voting. They're all going to like dogpile in on that, and then when Biden ends up being the actual victor, they are going to lose their shit. And there is a very scary chance that could be that could take a very violent form, and I am very worried about it. But we'll see how that goes. I still feel so bad for that dog.
What's up, guys? How you doing? I'm Paul.
I'm Morgan.
In today's video,
Why are you wearing a mask, Paul? We all know you don't give a shit.
CDC quietly updates COVID deaths. Have you guys heard about this?
I have, because it's not true. But you're all going to push it as if it's true. They did not quietly adjust the deaths. What they did was announce how many of the deaths were strictly from COVID-19 and no other factors. COVID-19 was the only thing on their death certificate, which, with the amount that they said that was, to me, actually was kind of surprising just how many people died only of COVID. And it really shows just how dangerous COVID is on its own, even to people without pre-existing conditions.
Oh, you haven't?
I have.
You probably have.
You probably have. But if you haven't, it may be because the CDC is being kind of secretive about it, and the media, mainstream,
Is not talking about it.
they don't like reporting this type of stuff.
Well, mainstream media is probably not talking about this because for the most part it doesn't matter, and it's about what people would expect, because what people would expect is that the majority of people dying from COVID are the people who are already at higher risk with some sort of comorbidity that would then lead them to be more vulnerable to dying from COVID. So it shows exactly what most people with any sort of brain function would be assuming. Unfortunately, you guys do not have any sort of like reading comprehension. Either that or you have reading comprehension and you know it does not mean what you say it means, but you're gonna push it as if it does anyway, which is, probably, in my opinion, that's probably the case. I think most of these people pushing this narrative know that it's bullshit and they're just using it to try and fool people. That's what I think.
Yeah, so take that stupid mask off and
Okay, hey, that's for another video, whether masks are
Oh, good. I'm excited for that one.
stupid or not. Maybe we'll talk about it in this video as well. Who knows
Oh,
what the
God.
conversation will bring.
Who knows?
who knows? But first, make sure you subscribe, turn that notification bell on so you know when we post a video. We make videos on culture and social issues from a Christian perspective to help you have hope.
And be free.
And ever since you started doing that, instead of your Christian relationship advice shit, your channel has plummeted into obscurity, which is really fucking funny.
And guys, real quick, as Morgan and I take on some weightier topics like we have been, we've been getting demonetized more from YouTube. I think
Gee, maybe it's because you're spreading harmful disinformation that's going to get people hurt or killed.
3 out of our last 6 videos have been demonetized, which just means they're not letting ads run on our videos and we're not making as much money to continue to do this. So we would invite you
I mean, another reason you're not making as much money is because your viewership has been cut down by like 90%.
guys to become a patron. Support us monthly on Patreon. $2, $3,
Oh, God.
$5 a month. It helps
Fuck
us
off.
a
Stop
ton
shilling.
to continue to do this. Just go to patreon.com/Paul and Morgan Show. We'll link it below.
You guys don't have to support me monetarily. Just hit that subscribe button. Just hang out. Just hang out and vibe with me. Because you know what? Shit like this, it's horrible, but it can be kind of fun to just kind of sit through and kind of work out what is wrong with these people's heads, that this is what they decide to focus on. So hang out, just vibe with me. Let's have some fun.
Or if you want to do a one-time payment, you can Venmo us at
Oh God,
at
they
the
set up a
Paul and Morgan Show.
Venmo.
So Morgan, this was a topic that was a
Fuck
little
that.
more on your radar. But, I mean, it's on mine as well. But tell us why this is sticking out to you.
Well, everyone I
Well,
follow on Instagram is posting about it. And so I was like,
I wonder if she follows Candace Owens on Instagram, because Candace Owens was the first person I saw tweeting about this.
Following the crowd.
it's being talked about on my Instagram, but I don't know if it's being talked about anywhere else.
On your Instagram. By the way, follow us on Instagram if you want to hear more stuff like this.
If you follow any sort of like conservative demagogues out there, you've probably seen stuff about this. I know I certainly have.
We've been posting more stuff like this. At Paul Olagus, at Morgan Olagus.
I know that there are several.
Is that how it's said? Olagus? Huh. Alright, I mean, I never really had like an idea of how it was said, but it wasn't that.
Sides or thoughts on this.
Sure.
And the numbers.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about both sides, and I just want to bring it to
Both
the light.
sides.
I just want to use our platform to bring it to the light that much more, because it is so clear that the mainstream media is not going to bring it to light.
Because it's not a story.
Because that would crush their agenda.
Because it's not a story.
Let's just share
let's
the
start-
numbers.
All right, guys, so you can find
Let's
this
hear it.
information on the CDC website if
Well, I
that
guess you
helps.
can.
We want to comfort you and let you know this is on the CDC.
It's on the,
website.
yeah.
This is not a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, it's
No, the data that they put out is not a conspiracy theory. The idea that they put it out and that what it means is that 94% of the COVID deaths just don't count, which is what a lot of people are trying to push, is a conspiracy theory.
So here's what's happening right here. So the article I'm reading from the World Tribune, August 30th. Only 6% of 153,504 virus deaths.
Where are we at now? We check almost every video because so many of our videos are about COVID. US COVID deaths. Well, let's see. Where are we at right now? 188,000. Awesome. Guys, America first. We're winning. We're winning. Oh, it's so good.
Were solely from COVID.
Yeah, 6% were only from COVID.
So let's read just a little bit further. Data released by the CDC on August 26th.
God, they talk so slow. I'm turning them up a little bit. I'm turning up the speed a little bit because they're so slow. We'll go up to 1.25.
Which was widely ignored by the mainstream media, which would be expected by now, show that coronavirus was listed as the sole cause in only 6% of all recorded virus deaths in the US.
Which is to be expected. We all knew that some people are more vulnerable to it, generally people who already have pre-existing conditions, which would make them vulnerable to it, which would then be listed on their death certificate if it's part of the reason why they died. It's to be expected.
The CDC said that of 153,504 deaths recorded from February 1st through August 19th, only 9,210, 6%, listed COVID as the only cause of death. That's big.
So that means
It's not big. That's about what everyone with a brain would have expected.
that 94% of the people who died from COVID had underlying conditions, normally had 2.6.
2.6 additional conditions.
Yes.
Yes, which made them more likely to have a severe case of COVID-19.
And
Which
guys,
is
don't
why
get us
they died.
wrong, 9,210 deaths, that's still a good amount of deaths. We also want to say this, even though only 9,210 died solely from coronavirus, like that was the only thing they had, we're not saying that the coronavirus couldn't have contributed to some of those other deaths. Yes,
Then what's the point? If you're not saying that COVID did not really have a significant contribution to these other people's deaths, then what is the point? Why do you think this is such a big story? Because it's really not. It literally is just saying that only 6% of them died from COVID alone, which most people already assumed was about the case. So if you're not trying to say that the ones that have other causes are not valid, then what is the fucking point of your video?
they had on average 2.6 additional conditions.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that coronavirus couldn't have still contributed to their death. It very well may have. We know that it attacks the respiratory system. But in the same vein, we want to bring it back down to earth.
And even scarier, and one of the main reasons that even people like, even young people need to be worried about this shit, and the reason that people like this saying, oh, well, people who only died from COVID was this little, so you really don't have to worry about it unless you are somebody who has all these other underlying conditions. Even the most mild case of COVID can have significant health effects on your body. It can lower your lung function, like, permanently. It can do nerve damage. It can do a lot of bad shit. Just from the most mild case, have lasting consequences. no matter how healthy you are, even if it is a case where you barely get symptoms, it can still have lasting consequences on your body. So it's not just a matter of, oh, well, if you have some sort of underlying condition that would make you more susceptible and might have a worse case if you get it, then you should be worried. Everybody needs to be worried about COVID-19. Still.
10,000 deaths solely from coronavirus. You guys take that as you will. That's big news. And when have we quarantined the healthy people for a virus that has a recovery rate of 99 point something percent?
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're saying. It's craziness.
A recovery rate of 99 point something percent?
Me, in my opinion, it's craziness.
Okay, again, we are quarantining, or we were trying to quarantine before people like you refused to do it. The whole reason was because this virus does not have any sort of vaccine that people can get, we have no way of effectively treating this virus, which means the chance that you're going to die from it is much higher, as well as the fact that even if you don't die from it, this virus is really fucking bad and can do things to your body that cannot be reversed, even in a mild case.
Okay, so according to the CDC, more people died from the flu in the 2018 to 2019 season than COVID, yet there was no pandemic.
I mean, more people died... Well, all right, wait, hold up. What is she saying here?
Season than COVID. Okay, so according to the CDC, more people died from the flu in the 2018 to 2019 season than COVID.
Hold up. CDC 2018 to 2019 flu deaths. All right. 61,200 people died in the 2018-2019 flu season. 61,200 people. U.S. COVID deaths, not USN. U.S. COVID deaths, what was that again? Oh, right. 188,000. Almost seems like somebody might be taking some data out of context and using the 9,000 people number of people who have died solely from COVID against the everyone who died of the flu that year, regardless of other conditions that were listed, number for the flu. It's almost as if this is misrepresenting the data. Huh, who would have guessed?
Yet there was no pandemic. There wasn't a pandemic for the flu, for people passing away because of the flu.
It was a bad flu year.
Yeah, and we also had vaccines for flu. We also have way to treat the flu. And actually, that was not even that bad of a year for flu. As it said in there, I didn't read it out when it was on screen because I didn't think it mattered. It was on par with about how it would normally be for the flu. How many people died from the flu that year? It's not exceptional that year that many people died. So, yeah, what the fuck are you talking about? Oh my god, I do not get these people.
I believe there were 34,000 deaths from the flu alone. No other causes, just the flu.
Well,
Okay.
the flu actually affects kids much more than COVID does. Am I right?
Yes.
I mean,
Okay, but we also have, again, vaccine for the flu. We have treatment for the flu. And we also have less deaths that year than we have from COVID. It does not matter how many were just from that because it is a contributing factor. More people died here. That's why it matters.
Kids
Significantly
lose a lot.
more.
get hit by the flu. I think Ben Shapiro posted something that was
Oh,
like, a young
God.
person is more likely to die from getting struck by lightning than from COVID.
Okay. Your point? If young people are going out and doing shit, they may still have long-term effects from COVID, even if they don't die, even if it's just a mild case in them. And if they're out doing shit, they're out possibly spreading COVID to people who are not as safe from COVID. What is your point?
And that's
That's
look it
rare.
up. Look it up.
To get struck by
God.
lightning.
Extremely rare. That's the point.
Yeah.
Look at the statistics of kids 10 and under, 15 and under, 20 and under that have died from COVID. It's extremely small.
And again, just because we're talking about
Does
this
not
does
matter.
not mean that we lack empathy or don't.
Oh, trust me, there are plenty of ways that you have shown over the years that you lack any form of empathy for anybody.
Feel sorry or pain for the people who have lost people during this time. We do, and we understand that losing a loved one is horribly painful.
Yeah.
And we are so sorry
But if you ask us to wear a mask in public, we might spit in your face.
for those losses. But there's a but.
Uh-huh.
But that doesn't mean that we just stop talking about the facts. That doesn't mean we just push out the statistics because someone is hurting.
Right.
You're right. We should pay attention to the statistics. The statistics that say, that you ignored, that say that 188,000 people have died from COVID this year, which is much higher than the number of people who died from the flu. But you said that less people died from COVID than from the flu. So, you're right. I agree. We need to be paying attention to the data. We also need to not be misrepresenting it, which is what you do constantly.
We have to think about this in a much less emotional way.
100%. We have to be able to put our emotions to the side, and emotions are fine. Feeling pain, feeling sadness, that's fine, but we have to be able to look beyond that.
Yeah.
Tell your emotions to take a back seat.
Okay, and? Like, I do not understand what their point is here. Like, obviously, I know their point is, well, we kind of just need to go back to normal because we're sick of sitting inside and we're sick of people getting mad at us for not wearing masks. So we kind of just need to accept that what this data says, which is not what it says, is that COVID is not really that big of a deal, so we can go back to our daily life. That's what they're trying to say here, which is not true.
You got to be able to look at facts sometimes.
I just want to put this.
God, Paul and Morgan preaching about how people need to actually pay attention to facts. Oh God, that pisses me off.
9 to 10,000 deaths from just COVID into perspective. So
Yeah, 9,000 people with no other conditions. Old age is probably one of the ones that is listed as another factor that would contribute to somebody's death, which means these are probably people who are young and healthy who died anyway. 9,000 of them. Personally, I think that's a bigger deal than if it had been what I was expecting, which was less than that, who died strictly from COVID. So, why are you trying to push this as if it means that, well, you know, the data is showing that it's really not that big a deal?
So for those people who are like 10,000 is still a lot of deaths, well, yes,
Yeah.
agreed, but
Not as many as 188,000.
the leading causes of death for 2019, heart disease, 647,457 people died.
Wow, that's insane. It's almost as if heart disease is not a contagious thing. It's almost as if there's no reason to have a pandemic and some sort of quarantine about heart disease when it only affects the people who have heart disease and they can't go spreading it to other people.
And that's a
Heart
pandemic.
disease.
That's a pandemic.
That is not a pandemic. That is not a pandemic. An epidemic, maybe, but there's a fucking difference. There is a difference between an epidemic and a pandemic. A pandemic is a disease that is being spread through the population. That is not heart disease. You are fucking illiterate.
Pandemic, if
That's
you
a
ask me,
pandemic.
that we need to be going through and
Why haven't we closed down all the McDonald's?
Oh my God, and they always fall back to this, like, oh, well, you want us to wear masks? Well, if I see you eating something that's unhealthy for you, I'm gonna smack it out of your hand because that's the same thing. Why should I care about your health if you're willing to put your health at risk in other ways?
Why
I
haven't
fucking
we
hate
closed down
these
all the
people.
fast food junk crap, ripped it from the grocery store aisles?
that's another video.
Because it's completely disanalogous. There is absolutely nothing between these two things that has any correlation at all.
Another video. Keep going.
Oh God, please make another video about that because that would be fucking hilarious.
599,108 people died in 2019 from cancer. Accidents.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Oh, we should have a quarantine for cancer because, you know, the highly contagious cancer.
Unintentional injuries, 169,936.
Yeah, and
Okay, what was that number?
Unintentional injuries, 169,000.
Okay, so already they've listed two things, and now they are already beneath the number of deaths in the third thing that we have already had from COVID. In just 5 months, 6 months.
936.
yeah, and then you could go on. You could talk about the suicide rates that have spiked in 2020.
Which there is no data to actually suggest because they actually have not had a chance to compile that data, because that's something that you actually have to look at as a whole, which is something that they have not had a chance to do, which we looked at in another video that you guys have done. You guys are, what they do is they take, oh my god, they had the same thing where they were talking about how we need to stop looking at this in an emotional way and we need to focus on the facts. And then they bring out these statistics that do not yet exist about the suicide rate spiking, and then saying that, well, this is awful. We need to open up the country and let more people die because of these few people who are dying. This is, oh my god, I can't stand these people.
Largely due to the lockdown, forcing healthy people to stay inside, to not see their friends, to not interact. And
sometimes there have to be sacrifices made to keep more people from dying.
some places literally not even allowed to go to the park, to go to the beach.
Okay, so let's talk about that one video that you found. This guy
Did
God.
find
talking about the numbers.
Yeah, and you may have seen it. It's a video
Let's
that's
hear it.
going around. Ultimately, he's saying, before we get too excited about, oh my goodness, only 10,000 people have died solely from COVID, we do have to realize that COVID still has affected and potentially, been the final straw that killed others of the larger number, the other 94%.
Yeah. You can have other conditions and die from COVID and in a way that you would not have died if you didn't get COVID. That's the majority of these. Maybe they would have died at some point this year. Maybe they would have died in the next 5 years, but they weren't going to die when they did if they didn't get COVID, which is why COVID is listed on their death certificate, which is why they are counted as a COVID death, because it contributed to their death. And it wouldn't have if COVID were under control, which it is not.
That had 1, 2, 3 other conditions.
Yes.
So we don't need to take that lightly. We see what he's saying there.
And that's,
I don't think you do.
I get that point, I hear that point, and there was a girl that I watched in a video, and she said, we all knew that COVID, this virus, was more serious to people who had underlying conditions, just
sure.
as any virus is. But when, in the history of our world, have we ever shut down our entire world for the sick and locked the healthy people away and said, y'all, all of you have to stay inside?
Yeah, nope, exactly.
When have we ever done that?
Nope.
It's almost as if this is a pandemic that has been unprecedented in the world, at least in the time anybody here has been alive. The closest thing has been over 100 years ago. So yeah, maybe in your lifetime, there has never been a time when we said, this is bad enough that we need to lock up the healthy people and not let them go out because they might get sick and die or infect other people and have those people die. It's almost as if this is a big enough fucking deal that we can take unprecedented measures.
Nobody's discouraging a person with other health conditions, a person that's 85 years old, someone who's obese, someone who smokes, these other things. No one's discouraging them from being careful, from staying inside, from socially distancing. But
It doesn't matter if they do, because they still have to have some sort of tie to the outside world. They still have to get their food from somewhere. They still have to survive, which means other people going out doing shit that they don't need to be doing will then contribute to these people getting sick and dying. You people have no fucking empathy. It blows my goddamn mind.
the rest of us that are trying to get out and work,
And keep this economy growing and
It's all about the economy.
going.
yeah, and maintaining their livelihoods and just living, we should be allowed to do that. That's
You two make YouTube videos for a living. What the fuck are you complaining about?
it's our opinion. There's a risk to living.
There's a risk to.
There's a risk to living. Yeah, no shit. But the risk is higher for certain people right now. And because you people are not willing to do what you need to do in order to keep them safe, you are increasing that risk. So, what the fuck do you think good are you doing? Like, what good are you doing for these people by saying, we really don't need to be worrying about this, it's only 9,000 deaths? What good are you doing? None. You are doing nothing good. You are going to get people killed.
To living, and I can see and hear the other side of this, and people saying the respectful thing to do is to close everything down and to wear the masks and to social distance and to...
I fucking hate these people. These people who will preach about how it's so important. Like, yes, we get it, we understand, but we don't want to wear masks. So I guess the sick people should just stay home, and if they die, well, they were probably going to die anyway. There's no reason for us to be wearing masks. That seems a bit extreme, to make us wear masks. We're young, we're healthy. Why should we have to suffer to keep other people alive? These people have no fucking empathy, and I cannot stand them for it.
To just stay inside for months, maybe even years.
Pause real quick. Short collage of politicians and mask lovers not wearing their mask correctly. Go.
Yeah, it's still bad. Your point? Yeah, I'm pissed off at all those people too, because what they're doing by not wearing their masks out in public is encouraging people like you. So yeah, I'm not happy with any of those people for what they've done with that. It pisses me the fuck off, because even if they are in situations where they don't necessarily need to be wearing a mask, like Andrew Cuomo walking around in the streets, where, yeah, he's probably pretty safe to not be wearing a mask, even in those situations, he's fueling the flames of people like you who are too fucking stupid to understand why we need to be wearing masks in the first place.
You didn't notice.
That is one beautiful ring.
Guys, I got a ring upgrade. I know that we have a lot of young couples on here, so if you need a ring, you should go to the company. This is not sponsored. I just want to share because
then why are you wasting my time?
On my Instagram.
And I re-proposed to Morgan with that ring.
He did.
Wow.
And she said yes.
I said yes. And we're back. My
re-proposed to Maury. You guys have been married for what, like 4 years?
Question to you all who say that stuff is, what about the other side? What about how the fact that the suicide rates have gone up during COVID? What about the people?
It's irrelevant to the fact that if we let people do what they want to do, more people would die. So, yeah, in a utilitarian sense, it doesn't fucking matter because less people are dying. Does it suck? Yes. Should we be taking steps as a country, and the government should be taking steps to make life easier for these people so that they don't feel as much despair being in quarantine, likely not being able to go to work, likely feeling as if they are helpless? Yeah, we should be doing shit to help that. But it's the conservatives and the Republicans, mostly, who are keeping that shit from happening. There was another COVID relief bill that was sitting there, and they said, well, we should probably take a break at the Senate. We'll reconvene, and then we'll talk about it. People don't need this money. People will be fine. It's not a matter of these people dying doesn't matter. The point is that people in power need to be doing things for that, but the people who are not in power need to accept the fact that, yeah, it sucks that they're dying, but more people would die if we were out doing shit. So, yeah, it sucks. Things can be done to help it that are not being done, but less people are dying than would be.
People who are having mental breakdowns during COVID.
Returning to alcoholism, returning to substance abuse.
Yeah,
people
it
getting
sucks.
Abused.
Children.
It's almost as if we had effectively done a lockdown, a nationwide lockdown, which we could never have done because our president's a fucking moron and does not want any responsibility for anything. So he wouldn't do a nationwide lockdown. But if we were to do an effective nationwide lockdown when we had talked about doing so, if we had actually done it and people like you had not broken their the recommendations, had not gone out in public when you didn't need to, had not gone out not wearing masks when you shouldn't have been out, and you should have been wearing masks if you were, if we had effectively done this and we had waited until it was actually safe to go back to daily life, instead of saying, well, we've done this for 2 weeks and that was fun, but the economy really needs to start again. If we had not done that shit, we wouldn't have been under these conditions for nearly as long, which means less people would have died from that. From the very things you're talking about. The suicide, the mental breakdowns, the returning to alcoholism. There would have been less of that if we had done it properly. But people like you said, this is a bit much, don't you think? I mean, when have we ever done this before? It's your fault. It is people like you who made it so that none of this could go properly, so that all of it got worse.
Who are abused by their parents and family members because they can't go to school because we closed all the schools down because this is such a dangerous disease and all the children will die.
It's not about the children dying, it's about the children who live with other people who are at more risk of dying.
Even though the statistics and the facts don't show that at all.
I fucking hate you people.
Oh my goodness, whoa. I haven't seen Morgan with that look in her eyes since I ate the last of her Reese's Puffs.
No, you never eat the last of them. You leave me like 3 little puffs.
Yeah, guys, our point here is we're not really buying anymore those of you who say, I am on the side of sympathy. People could die. Mm-hmm. There's people dying that are COVID-related deaths that don't have anything to do with the COVID disease.
More people would die without the regulations than the people who are dying because of the regulations. Significantly more people would die. So if your position is, well, we should just be letting things go back to normal because a few people are dying due to the regulations, you're a fucking moron and you do not give a shit about the many, many more people who would die if we just kind of let things go. I do not give a shit what you people think because you don't care about anybody. It's astounding.
It's those things that Morgan was mentioning. There's a flip side to this. Mm-hmm. It's despair.
My God.
It's livelihoods being ruined. It's people not able to fellowship and leave their house. There's a flip side.
Really? I don't think that the pandemic will be over.
She keeps calling it, oh man.
I don't think that it'll ever be over until we decide it's over. Also, something in this video that I watched earlier.
It'll never be over until we decide it's over. The fuck does that mean? It'll never be over until we get it under control, which we had a chance to do, and then we didn't because of people like you.
Earlier was a really good point. The world is trying to blame Trump for this, and I just think that's hilarious. But also,
right now, the United States is the worst hit by COVID, and the majority of the reason of that is because we had no nationwide response. So, yeah, it's pretty fair to blame Donald Trump for a lot of what has happened.
I just think it's so interesting because really, if you're not happy with how things are going in your state, that's because of the governor.
It's not because of the governor in many cases. In many cases, it's because you live in a place where your governor's a moron, like I do. Yay, Tennessee. You live in a place where your governor's a moron. So Trump said, well, I don't want to be responsible for all these people dying, so I'll let the governors take care of it, knowing that all of the conservative governors were going to follow the exact sort of rhetoric that he has been pushing from the beginning, which is that none of this fucking matters, and that, it'll be fine, in just a month it'll disappear, we don't need to worry about it, which means all of the states with conservative governors got completely fucked over. They got completely fucked over with no actual response to this pandemic. And the reason that the people living in states with Democratic governors ended up with a lot of cases as well is because, one, we don't have any sort of national response, so people can be traveling between states and people can be bringing it to those states. And in addition to that, most of the places with Democratic governors are places with large population centers, which is another contributing factor to how COVID spreads. It is probably the most significant factor. Like, oh god, was it you guys or was it? I think it was Officer Tatum who said, "Oh, well, look at the amount of cases in South Dakota. See, we should all just be doing that." And they have a population density of like 11 people per square mile. And then we looked at New York City, and it said, "Oh, we have about 12,000 people per square mile." I wonder why the way that COVID has spread has panned out the way it has. I wonder.
That's because of the mayor. That's the small government. Trump,
It's only the fault of the small government because the large government refused to act.
the president of the United States, no matter who he is, really doesn't have a whole lot of say over your state. And that's because we have small government, which is a great thing. But it's important to vote so that the people...
And if Trump had not been the one to be playing down the virus the entire time and setting the standard by which most conservatives decided, yeah, this is the rhetoric we're going to go with, because yet again, like I said in the beginning, conservatives have this incredible way of rallying and unifying behind the dumbest fucking shit imaginable. So if it weren't for the dumbest motherfucker imaginable, Donald Trump, up at the top saying, oh, it really doesn't matter, and then all of the governors saying, well, if he says it doesn't matter, so we don't need to worry about it either, then we wouldn't be in as much shit as we are right now. It all comes from the top, because it's his fucking rhetoric that informs all the other motherfucking conservatives in our government. It is his fault because they listen to him, and he knows that.
you want are running in office and
Yeah.
not being crazy dictators taking over your state.
I'll tell you what, even though Kentucky right now isn't too much better, I would not want to live in New York City or Los Angeles right now. And I love both of those cities, but man, like, their governors are acting like kings.
I hope.
So, it's the governor's fault for not doing enough, but it also looks bad on the governors who are doing enough because, well, they're overstepping. You people are so fucking stupid.
That with these numbers released, which is probably not going to happen, this is me just daydreaming and praying to the sweet Lord Jesus.
Somewhat blasphemous, but it wasn't. You mean
Fuck
the
off.
sweet Lord Jesus.
Yes!
Some people just use that term blasphemously.
What?
I heard a podcaster use that earlier today.
Who?
I'm not telling. H3H3. Anyway, just go.
With these numbers being out, I would pray and hope that the governors, the mayors, would start taking away the mask mandate.
I don't know if I can finish this fucking video. This is so ridiculous. Like, the fact that they're saying, well, I'm hoping... Oh my god, they're so inconsistent. This is why it's impossible to actually talk about these people. Because Morgan has said so many conflicting things. She has said, well, we're not saying that it's not a big deal because of this. But now she's also saying, well, only 9,000 people have actually died, so what I'm hoping is that the governors will take this the way that I'm implying it, but saying that I'm not implying it, and that they'll say that, well, it's not actually that big a deal, so we can take away all the protections that will protect people, so, you know, it really doesn't matter if that many people die, because not that many people have died at this point. I fucking hate these people. God, I can't do this shit. Oh my
Start
god.
Opening schools back up, would start cutting back
It is
on social distancing.
Interesting, isn't it? I mean,
But
literally,
that's not going to happen.
I think it was, and you know, everyone trusts the CDC so much. Fauci. We're pointing to the CDC's actual website. I believe it was 2 weeks ago-ish that the CDC came out saying that if you were around someone that had it, you don't need to be as, like, scared that you have it. Like, if you're asymptomatic, you can relax some. But even that, them, like, coming out and stating that, it's had a ton of backlash. You had the Gavin Newsom, governor of California, saying, we rejected the CDC's latest statement.
Yeah, because the CDC's latest statement was actually made without the approval of Fauci. It was made, they decided to make this statement behind Fauci's back while Fauci was under anesthesia. They planned it out so that he would be under anesthesia when they held the meeting to decide that this was the new national response. Because they don't care if you die. They don't care if you die. They want you to die. They don't give a shit about you. They will obfuscate any fact that makes it in any way possible that anything will get done that needs to get done in this pandemic because they don't care if you die. All they care about is the effect that this is having on the economy. And if the economy might do better if we let more people die, then they're willing to let that happen.
That's
So,
just crazy.
It's all a big...
Guys.
we get it, like, maybe there's some truth here, but then there's a bunch of junk and agendas here, so it's all muggled. Just choose...
Muggled.
Muggleborn. Muggle blood. Mudblood? What is it on Harry Potter?
Mudblood.
Muggleborn and mudblood are two different things. Dig a little deeper. Don't just take what you see on CNN and what Andrew...
Or Fox.
Or Fox.
Unless it's Tucker Carlson.
Or what you hear from Fauci, Governor Cuomo. Like, dig a little deeper.
I think that by now everyone knows, like, there's an agenda, right? Like,
I don't know.
Are there...
No, apparently not, because you people apparently don't realize it. God, yeah, people who are informed about what's going on in the world know that everyone has biases, and they're able to pick them out because they know the actual facts. I know what your biases are because I actually pay attention. And I think that you people actually do know what the biases are, and you're playing into them. Because, again, every fucking conservative demagogue goes on, and they rally around the same points, and then they regurgitate them, word for word, from everyone else who has already said them. Because they don't care. They just, oh my god, they just want to repeat the exact same bullshit enough times that they can convince people it's true.
People, comment below if you think that there's not an agenda behind this pandemic.
Comment below if you think there is as well, and maybe go into it a little deeper. This will be an interesting comment section.
Because just because we are saying, I'm gonna say it, I think that this is 1000% there's an agenda behind this.
What do you mean there's an agenda behind this? Like, yeah, obviously everyone who talks about this has their own agenda. Mine, personally, I want less people to die. I think that's pretty fair. I don't think anyone would... Well, originally I didn't think anyone would disagree with that, and then I remembered, oh right, people like you exist. So yeah, everyone has a bias. Absolutely. But there is no bias to the virus. Like, yeah, you have to recognize that everyone who talks about this has their own bias. You would hope that the people's bias would be, we want less people to die, but unfortunately, as you tend to prove, that's not always the case.
But just because there's an agenda doesn't mean that I'm saying this wasn't real.
Yeah.
The virus is real.
Right.
I understand that. I understand that it's taken lives. But I am saying...
I understand that the virus is real. I just don't care.
This has been used for an agenda to push fear and to control and to take over states.
I'd agree with that.
And
What do you guys comment below? Do you agree
Oh
with
my
that?
god.
And I don't think it will end until election. And then when election happens, our country will probably go up in flames. I'm
No,
not
I
sure.
rebuke that in Jesus' name. Lord Jesus, pour out grace and mercy.
I'm
to
putting
hearts
it
that
up
are lost.
higher
I'm serious,
speed.
guys, right now. Like, I'm speaking this.
'Cause I can't deal with them
people
for
that are
much
confused,
longer.
people living in fear, even people that are living just in blatant sin, and convict hearts, Holy Spirit, and move in our country. Bring light, like Morgan was saying earlier. Light. Push out the darkness.
Yeah.
Push out the darkness in the name of Jesus with your light.
This has just been incoherent babbling for the last, 3-4 minutes here.
Saying that earlier?
In the video, just talking about light. You were saying something about light. Guys, we shared a lot of stuff here. Some of it was just totally our opinion. We want to hear your thoughts. We want to hear your...
You know, we know your opinion. You don't care if people die, as long as you can regurgitate your conservative talking points. We know your position.
studies. Comment below where you're at with this, what you think about the CDC and this 6% death rate that we've been talking about. We want to hear your thoughts on it because we know this is a big topic. Guys, give this video a thumbs up if you have appreciated Morgan and I died.
Fuck off. Holy shit, fuck off. Fuck these people. Fuck Paul and Morgan. They are going to get people killed because, well, actually, maybe not. That is the one good thing, is that when they have started, delving into politics, showing how fucking stupid they are and how little they care about people, they've been getting less views, which means less people are at risk of dying from what the shit they say. So, maybe, yeah. Alright, fair enough. I guess if they want to scream into the void and have, 1,000 people say, no, you're fucking wrong, while 440 people say, yeah, you're right, keep doing it. Yeah, okay, fine. At that point, you go ahead. You keep going on. I can't fucking stand these people. I get just so fucking frustrated every time I have to deal with these people. And yet, I still feel the need to do it because regardless of whether they're getting a lot of views, they still keep putting this shit out into the world. And it's just so fucking harmful. God, I can't stand them.